Shall we begin? Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
Is that all you got?
Let's begin now.
What up? Oh, for sure.
Hi everybody, how are you on this lovely Sunday? And it is lovely outside as well. It is beautiful. Hi everybody, hi Patrick, hi Wayne, hi Titch, here as always. Hi Anthony, how are you? Hi everybody in the chat on TikTok. So, I'm live. Let me just sort out my camera. I can out of focus. A little bit dark. Give me a second, let me just turn the light on. Better. Hi everybody, so welcome on YouTube, on Rockfin and Rumble and Twitter and all the other places, and I'm live. Now if you're on TikTok, sort of a behind the scenes stream, see obviously the green screen behind me, you can't see what I'll be talking about, but I'll try and make it as descriptive as possible so you sort of get the idea, and hopefully you will be able to hear when I play a video behind me. You'll be able to hear the video, you just won't be able to see it. You certainly get the context from it, hopefully. Anyway, should we get into it? Should we start? Because I've got a lot to get through today. And it's going to be an interesting one. I certainly hope so anyway. So, the latest with Hunter Biden is New York Times has admitted that the laptop was true. It wasn't Russian disinformation, which is what it was labelled at the time. Remember, this is just before the election that the laptop story came out in 2020, which is curious. And it was quashed. It was suppressed. People couldn't get their hands on this information. And if the information was in the mainstream and it wasn't smeared as it was at the time, who knows what would have happened with regards to the result of that election. So the latest is this. This is from March the 19th. So it's yesterday. This is Jen Psaki, who is I think that's how you pronounce her name. Psaki? Is it Psaki? She has been asked questions by a reporter. I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Jen Psaki was asked questions by a reporter. Half decent questions. This is from the Conservative Brief. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki had her feet held to the fire by New York Post reporter Stephen Nelson over Hunter Biden's business dealings in China and Russia, and she did not like it. I've got video on this. Show it you. This is what was going on. This is obfuscation, obviously, of the highest order. I think it is anyway. You be the judge.
On Russia, you told me last year that you were unfamiliar with the Senate report that alleged that the First Son, or a company linked to the First Son, received $3.5 million from the richest woman in Russia.
So he's talking there about $3.5 million linked to the richest person in Russia, sent to one of Hunter Biden's first son. I think this organizations he was involved with back then. This is back in 2013, 2014, I think. Correct.
Subsequent reporting indicates that President Biden, when he was vice president, had a dinner in Georgetown with the same woman in 2015.
So Biden had a dinner with this lady who's allegedly the richest person in Russia with in Georgetown, he says.
This Yelena Ballerina, she has not been sanctioned yet by the U.S. government.
Isn't that interesting? She's not been sanctioned yet. Isn't that interesting? Somebody who gives large amounts of money to organisations that Hunter is involved with, or was involved, was involved certainly back then, and who has sit-down meals with the president in Georgetown, and she hasn't been sanctioned. All the sanctions that are going on at the moment. I mean, Abramovich has had his Chelsea football club took off him. So why is that person above the sanctions? You can see why this reporter is asking this question. I can't believe he's got to ask it, to be honest.
how is President Biden navigating conflicts of interest when it comes to sanctioning people who have done business with his family? And can you explain to us what this $3.5 million was for?
I don't have any confirmation of the accuracy of that report, so I have no more further details.
So she just says 3.5 million. And she said, I've got no information with regards to the accuracy of the report, so I don't have details. That's it. And that's gonna be it. If people don't ask more questions, that is gonna be it. That is the limit. That's the limit to what we're gonna find out here.
The conflicts of interest, though, how he's navigating those when deciding sanctions.
What would be his conflicts of interest?
He's like, okay, how does he navigate the conflicts of interest when he's deciding sanctions? And she's like, what conflicts of interest? Well, the 3.5 million, the richest person in Russia, the richest lady in Russia, gave Biden's son's organisation and the sit-down meeting that he has with her. Why isn't she being sanctioned?
His son's company allegedly got $3.5 million from...
Which I have no confirmation of, and he has continued to sanction oligarchs more than we've ever sanctioned in the past, so I'm not sure that's a conflict of interest.
I'm not sure how that's a conflict of interest. Well, I am. Are you? Do you think that's a conflict of interest out there? Allegedly the richest lady in Russia giving 3.5 million and then having sit-down meals with the now president of the United States back in 2015. This is after, obviously, the 2014 Maidan protest, which led to the revolution, they say, or other people say that this dates back to coup. If you've ever seen Ukraine on Fire by award-winning videographer Oliver Stone, director Oliver Stone, you'll know that we're only getting told half the story here in the West with regards to what is going on with the situation in Ukraine. So, at the time, remember, this story was suppressed. This Hunter Biden, it was suppressed. All of this stuff was suppressed. It was all said to be Russian disinformation. And I want to show you what sort of people are saying it was Russian disinformation. So this is a list of 50 intelligence officers that signed a letter back then saying that the Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. It was completely rubbish. It was disinformation. Don't trust it. Now, who knows what would have happened had these intelligence officers, and I'm about to read them out to you, and there's some well, you can imagine what names are going to be there. Had they not done this, who knows what would have happened with regards to the election? Jim Clapper, Michael Hayden, Leon Panetta, John Brennan. I mean, isn't this like reading the analysts, you know, the contributing analysts from MSNBC and CNN's entire publishing schedule? Jim Clapper, Michael Hayden, Leon Panetta, John Brennan, Thomas Finger. There was 50 names on here. Rodney Snyder, Jeremy Bash, Larry Pfeiffer, John Mosman, Andy Lepman, Russ Travers. And as this person, this Nick Shorts points out here, I have no idea who that is actually. I don't know who he is, but communication director at the Claremont Institute. Married to, But he says that here are the names of the 50 intelligence officers who signed a letter saying Hunter Biden's laptop was disinformation. And as Richard Grinnell has pointed out, none of these officials had a single piece of raw intelligence indicating it was disinformation. They made it up. Why did they make that up? Why did they just say it must be Russian disinformation? It can only be to help Biden, can't it? And isn't this evidence that the intelligence or unfortunate factors within the intelligence services in America are maybe operating not with the best interests of Americans and the Constitution at heart? This suppression of information, it's got to stop. And even if that information, that laptop story did come from Russia. So what if it's true? If the truth comes from Russia, I've got some bad news for you. If you're one of those lefty liberals out there who somehow are operating in doublethink right now. But any truth that comes from Russia is still the truth. Just an inconvenient one. Well done to that reporter asking that question. Yeah. What's the betting like? He's going to lose his press pass in the next couple of months. What do you reckon? Hi, everybody. Go to the chat, have a quick... Hi, everybody. Hello, TikTokers. How you doing? It was to make Trump out to be the bad guy, says DJT. I think it was to help Biden. He's not making Trump out to the bad guy. That's what he's talking about. Jackson, well, thank you, mate. Really kind of you. Thank you, Franklin Aloga. Very nice. Yeah, please like and share the video, please. For independent media. And also, if you're on TikTok and you're watching this, or if you're live watching this, please click the link in my bio in my in the link tree, my TikTok, and you'll see my Twitter, my Rockfin, Rumble, YouTube, all the links. I've even got a Telegram as well, t.me/Gordon Dimmack, if you want to subscribe there. And I'll pretty much anything that I do, I drop there all in one space for you as well. Please do that, because I'm not sure how long I'm going to be on these platforms. Really not in the current climate. My friends in America have lost their platforms, who are on RT, and now they've been labelled state-affiliated media on Twitter. They even did that to Ed Schultz. Can you believe that, everybody? Ed Schultz, who's been in the grave, I think, 4 years. Ed Schultz, who he says MSNBC fired because he covered the Bernie Sanders campaign against Hillary Clinton in the primary of 2016, 2015. He says he was fired from MSNBC because of that. Go back and see, they'll look at the interview. And he could only get, as a result of that, RT were the only people who pretty much he could get a job with. So he's working in the best interests of socialists and people who want a better future in healthcare in America, and etc. And he gets fired and ostracized by Washington, can't find a job. So he goes to RT, dies, and now 3 years later, Twitter brand him Russian state-affiliated media on his Twitter account. Can you believe that? Can you believe the level of McCarthyism that is involved in that? It's quite shocking. And these are people, it's not just the graves of dead people and their families that you're just trampling over by doing all this, but there's good people, good journalists who are still alive, who this McCarthyite smear is just destroying their lives almost. But obviously it's done on purpose. I don't want you to hear the truth. In an empire of lies, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. All right, let's get to the next story, because this story, for me, typifies just how much and how far up shit creek we are, in the UK at least, without a paddle. So you remember this, right, from a few weeks ago. This is Liz Truss. This is our Foreign Secretary for my foreign audience. Anybody in America, our Foreign Secretary is kind of like your Secretary of State. So it's a big appointment. And here she is back in, this is from the 27th of February. basically saying that anybody who from the UK who wants to go to Ukraine and fight against the big bad Ruskies, yeah, we're fine with that. I can listen to her.
President Zelensky has asked for people from abroad.
It's a puppet! Sorry, it's like a tick. It's like a nervous, he's a puppet! Whenever I hear the name now, I can't help it. Sorry.
President Zelensky has asked for people from abroad to join an international force. Would you support that?
I do support that, and of course.
Did you hear that? I do support that. That's what she said. Let me repeat that. I do support that. That's clearly what she said there about this international force. And then she gets pushed on the British angle, and you'll hear what she says. Let me repeat it though. But she clearly said, I do support that, didn't she?
President Zelensky has asked for people from abroad to join an international force. Would you support that?
Puppet!
I do support that, and of course that is something that people can make their own decisions about. But they are fighting. The people of Ukraine are fighting for freedom and democracy, not just for Ukraine, but for the whole of Europe, because that is what President Putin is challenging. And absolutely, if people want to support that struggle, I would support them in doing that.
So you support Britain, people from Britain, going over to Ukraine to help in the fight?
Absolutely.
Let me repeat that. She said absolutely. I will play the rest of it so it's not taken out of context, but she said she started that answer off with absolutely.
Going over to Ukraine to help in the fight?
Absolutely, if that's what they want to do.
Absolutely, if that's what they want to do. Now, regardless, aside from the fact that what she's advocating for there is like, wow, is it on dodgy legal ground? Because allowing and pushing UK citizens and servicemen, and we're about to find out some soldiers have gone AWOL and buggered off to Ukraine to fight against the Russians since then. I'll tell you the story, but I think that's against the law. You would have to ask a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that advocating for UK citizens to go and fight against a nation that we haven't declared a war on it's legally dodgy. But now she's saying she didn't say that. I'm not joking. You just heard her say, absolutely, if that's what they want to do. And now she's saying she didn't say it. Foreign Secretary, this is from ITV, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss now says Britons should not fight in Ukraine. This is from, I think, what was it? This is from the 9th of March. So this is a few days ago now. So this is with from a press conference she did with Blinken, with Anthony Blinken, over in her, the Secretary of State, her counterpart in America. 1 minute 52 seconds is where I've got to take it to. Well done, ITV News, by catching this.
Travel advice from the United Kingdom is not to go to Ukraine. In fact, I repeated that message at the Foreign Affairs Committee earlier this week. There are better ways of helping the efforts in Ukraine, namely donating to the DEC appeal. What I said the other week was expressing support for the Ukrainian cause. They are fighting a just war, and we are doing all we can to support them.
Now, the real complication with...
Can you see Blinken there? Blinken was looking at her, almost in admiration. She was like, no, I didn't say, I was in support. ITV say this, that Liz Truss has withdrawn her support for British nationals to go join the fight against Vladimir Putin's forces in Ukraine after being contradicted by colleagues. She insisted that she had just been, quote, expressing support for the Ukrainian cause, when she said she would absolutely support UK nationals not to join the war. Now, isn't this Orwell? Didn't he say the final command from the state was to not believe your lying eyes and not to believe your lying ears? You know, didn't they do a movie recently on Netflix, Don't Look Up, on that very premise? No, if you don't look up, it's not there. It's quite staggering, isn't it? I worry that she's put lives at risk with this, though, because there are 11 soldiers, I believe, that have gone AWOL. It's assumed that they're fighting in Ukraine. This is a story that's from my local paper, one of my local papers, the Birmingham Mail, who are going to a little bit on this. A husband who went to Ukraine without telling his wife faces her fury as he returns. Listen to this guy's experience from Ukraine. I'm going to try and reach out and get an interview with him, because it's kind of interesting. A dad who rushed to, and this is obviously, I think he went to fight Ukraine after Liz Truss said yes. I think that's the case. This is why I want to reach out to him, because I want to know whether Liz Truss, her call to arms there that you heard, I want to know whether that had any weight, don't you? Or whether it had any weight on anybody else who's gone to Ukraine. I'm assuming that this is illegal as well, and might even be charged when they come back. Who knows? But has she put lives at risk here? Listen to this. A dad who rushed to fight in Ukraine without telling his wife and son returned home amid fears his trip was a suicide mission. Ben Span went to Ukraine saying he was ready to die to defend the country from Russia's invasion. Mr. Span did not reveal his true plans to his family and said he wanted to join the resistance despite having no military background. The 36-year-old from Leamington Spa in Warwickshire runs an anti-knife charity in the region. Speaking to Sky News on Tuesday, he said he flew to Portland from London Stansted, telling his teenage son and partner he was heading out to refugees. Have I got the video here? Sky got video of this. When he's got a drone shows destruction, I don't think there's any video of him. I have to take their word for it. He crossed the border and was holed up in a safe house, but began having doubts about the trip as his group awaited weapons, and said he had a gun pointed at his head by a Ukrainian SWAT team who wanted to vet the new arrivals, who also included four ex-British Army soldiers. So the quote Ukrainian SWAT team included 4 ex-British Army soldiers. It was only after 5 days that Mr. Span finally relented on his mission, having received grief from his wife and son. He said, I became quite close to tears. We were prepared to go and fight and basically die together. Oh no, he went with the 4 ex-British soldiers, sorry. Okay, he went with the 4 ex-British Army soldiers, I apologise. And this Ukrainian SWAT team vetted them. But still, that's 5 people that have gone this is not an isolated incident. He said, I became quite close to these guys. We were prepared to go and fight and basically die together. If that was what happened, you quickly form a bond with the people in those situations. At that point, I was getting some real grief off my wife and son. My son was doubting whether I even cared about him, why I was doing this. Same with my wife. While in Ukraine, Mr. Span said he saw 2 dead Russian soldiers propped up as a warning to Putin's army. He joined scores of Ukrainians fleeing at the Polish border. He added, it reminded me of a cattle market, to be honest. The tension was high, he continued. My wife was pretty pissed off, no doubt. Mind you, I do know somebody who literally went to the supermarket for a bottle of milk and a carton of cigarettes and joined the army and didn't come back for 3 years. Germany. Anyway, he said, my wife was pretty pissed off, saying she was going to kick me out and this, that and the other. He continued, my son's okay. He never went through the anger process. I just think he was happy to get glad I was back out of there. Mr. Span also warned non-military Brits to avoid travel to the country, as I do. Don't think going out there is a good thing to do. You're not helping the situation. It's a bad situation over there. So yeah, has Liz Truss put lives in danger here? What do you think? Let me know. Has she put lives in danger, do you think? by advocating that Brits go over and fight in Ukraine. Then Brits have gone over and fought in Ukraine, almost got their asses handed to them and almost got killed. And now Liz Truss is saying, no, I didn't say that, when you can clearly hear with your ears that she did. I'd just like to point out to everybody watching that these people like Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, okay, their jobs are to serve us. Their jobs are to take, taxes back out of the economy, and with that money is basically build roads and hospitals and schools, and inform people and create an even a society as possible. So life at home can be pleasant, and we can do the things that we're great at. And the British history books are littered with greatness. Literature, science. We can get back to those things, do those things, and fund the things that really need to be funded. Instead, these people, what they're doing is gaslighting and lying to us and almost getting us into World War III. We should not be sending weapons to Ukraine or any people. Should not be urging people to go to Ukraine and fight in a war zone with God knows what against God knows who. And for God knows what reason. Certainly not for a free and democratic Ukraine, as Liz Truss said there, because seriously, have a look back home, Liz. Right now, it's very difficult for us to even speak to each other. If we say the wrong thing, our channels get cancelled. If we become a threat, if we tell too much truth, there are all sorts of ways that we can get shut down. There's nothing free and democratic about that, is there? I worry with people like Liz in positions of power like this, that something bad is going to happen. I want to take you back. This is just from the 28th of February, and this is the BBC. Russia blames Liz Truss and others for the nuclear alert. Remember, Putin put his forces on nuclear high alert. They say it's a result of Liz Truss going over there and basically bungling the meeting that she had with Sergei Lavrov. Saying nothing's right. I really want to know who these politicians serve. Because it's not us, is it? Clearly. They're not serving you and me. They're telling you and me, yeah, go off, fight in this war against the big bad Russians and save Ukrainian freedom and democracy. And then when when people are going over there and getting shot at, and their heads nearly knocked and guns pointed at them from the Ukrainian side, she's now saying, oh, no, I didn't say that. No, I just expressed support for the Ukrainian cause. No, you didn't, you lying sod. Don't tell me a lie. You work for me. You work for us. The madness continues, though, with the next story I'm going to show you. You know how everybody's getting cancelled? Everybody Russian is getting cancelled. I mentioned earlier how Ed Schultz, who's been dead in the grave 4 years, Ed Schultz, who was fired from MSNBC, he says, because he covered the Bernie Sanders campaign against Hillary Clinton, just covered it. Just covered it. Went to the launch party of it. He had to go and work on RT because nobody else, he was persona non grata because of that. So he goes to work at RT, dies, and now retroactively Twitter label his account Russian state-affiliated media. Tchaikovsky, I think, was banned. The Tchaikovsky, they took a play down, a Tchaikovsky play or something like that. There have been various other, anti-Russians. The latest is insane. Yuri Gagarin, the first person in space, has had his name removed from a Space Foundation fundraiser following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Yuri Gagarin. This is a hero. This is not a Russian hero. Okay, I'm sorry, Russia. You might say he's a Russian hero, and you're welcome to say it. I'm sure you're very patriotic of him, and rightly so. If he was British, I would be too. But honestly, I'd like the rest of the world to claim him as a hero for mankind. He was the first person who went to space. He's been dead 54 years, I think. And now he's been cancelled because he's Russian. I can't believe. I kind of like, if an alien came to the world and said, "What? Okay, what's going on right now?" and I explained this, the alien would just go, "Nah, sod this, I'm out. See ya." It's too stupid for me. I'll come back when you've reached civilization. Bye. Yuri Gagarin has had his name removed from a US-based Space Foundation's fundraising event. The Soviet cosmonaut was the first person to fly to space. A non-profit organisation. Why have got this non-profit organisation? It's not funded by the NED, is it? Somebody go and check that. Write it down. To change the name amid current world events, they say. Yuri Gagarin is the first person to journey to outer space and has had his name removed from a. They announced on their website that in a now deleted note, so they've deleted it, but, quote, in light of current world events, the 2022 Space Foundation Yuri's Night is renamed a celebration of space. Discover what's next. So they were going to call it Yuri's Night. A celebration of space. Discover what's next. Shall we make sure that the Kennedy Space Center is renamed, because he was a bit of a philanderer, wasn't he, Kennedy? And not only that, but look at what America have done around the world. Shall we cancel all those, anything to do with let's cancel MLK Day as well. Because of America and the UK, they're forcing Julian Assange to be psychologically tortured in prison, aren't they? So yeah, let's cancel MLK Day, and let's cancel what's all the bank holidays in the UK. It's just ridiculous. It added, the focus of this fundraising event remains the same: to celebrate human achievements in space while inspiring the next generation to reach for the stars. Yeah, so you're celebrating human achievements in space by cancelling Yuri Gagarin 54 years after he's dead. This is just the latest in the nonsense, though. This is from the Express. Daniil Medvedev facing more. This is the tennis player Daniil Medvedev, tennis player. He's facing more calls. He's already facing a call to be banned from Wimbledon unless he denounces Putin. He hasn't come out in support of Putin. He hasn't said, I support the war. He hasn't said anything like that, but they're saying, no. If you don't come out and say, I denounce my president, I mean, God knows what that would... Putin... Not... He's a gangster, Putin is, But regardless, why does he have to denounce it? Why is it all of a sudden politics is involved in everything? Have you noticed that? Why is it all of a sudden politics? Oh, it used to be. Oh no, keep politics. Do you remember when they tried to celebrate they tried to show some solidarity with Palestine last year? Do you remember that? The Manchester City player, was it Mahrez? Tried to show some solidarity with Palestine. Everybody was like, no, let's keep politics out of sport. And now you got the whole team dressed in Ukrainian colours, seemingly. And now, Daniil Medvedev, who I think became number one as a result of Novak Djokovic being cancelled for being unvaccinated. Now they're trying to cancel him because he won't disavow Putin and his invasion of Ukraine. But it gets more ridiculous, this does. It gets to another level now because Alexander Dolgopolov, who's a Ukrainian tennis player, not as good, little bit lower down in the rankings, has called for a ban on all Russian tennis players after taking up arms to defend his country. Well, why not stop there, Dolgopolov? Eh? Why not take what's her name, Anna Kournikova? Why not strip her of her cover of Sports Illustrated? Of all the times that she was on Sports Illustrated, let's blank them out now. And who's that other Russian tennis player, the female one? He used to scream all the time, and she's just retired. Is it S, does it? Should we cancel her? Should we take all her Grand Slams off her as well? Medvedev is facing more calls to be banned from competing amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine, this article says. The world number one and all other Russian and Belarusian tennis players are currently competing as neutrals. So they've already had to be stripped of their nationality. Now they've got to denounce Putin and come out in support for the brave Ukrainians. Shh! Don't say Azov. Shh! Don't say neo-Nazis. Shh! But don't say biolabs either. But for Ukrainian former world number 13. So what are they doing? What are they going to do? Are they going to try and get everybody above them cancelled so the Ukrainian becomes number one by default? Is that what is going on here? Is cancel culture got as far as now we're dismissing and we're cancelling Russians who were the first people in space? A pioneer of mankind! A pioneer of mankind! And you're ashamed to even mention his first name in your fundraiser. How pathetic are you? There have been multiple calls for Russian and Belarusian star players to be banned from competition, with one tennis of the few sports still allowing them to compete, but as neutrals stripped of mentions of their country. The likes of Medvedev could even be stopped from competing in Wimbledon this summer unless they denounce Vladimir Putin and his actions, according to Sports Minister. This is ridiculous. Don't you agree? Don't you agree? This is ridiculous. How is this punishing Putin? How is this punishing Putin at all? This is just giving him it's just giving fodder for propaganda. All he's got to do is just say to people, look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing. We've done 10% of what the Americans of NATO have done over the last 20 years with this. 10%. And look how they've reacted. He doesn't need to propagandize his people. He just needs... Look. They scream and shout and say that our feces stinks. But look, they should flush their own, don't you think? So, this Dolgopolov, letting them play just by saying a few words when they're against the war, I don't believe this is enough. I know all these guys personally. I've even played Daniil when I was playing. Did you lose to him by any chance, did you? Hey? They're nice guys, but no offence to them. They're Russian. Bad Russians. This is just so pathetic. I believe Russia should be blocked from any participant in any sport. When Do you remember when Saudi Arabia chopped up Khashoggi? Do you remember the outrage over that and how there were calls for them to be banned from everywhere? Do you remember how, like, anybody who mentioned Bin Salman's name, you know, was totally cancelled? Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Didn't Bin Salman's charity, didn't the Saudi Arabian charity buy Newcastle Football Club about 2 months ago? They chopped up a journalist in a foreign embassy just like 4 years ago. They decapitated 81 people in one day last week. Why aren't we calling for them to be cancelled? Why aren't we calling for them to be booted out of UEFA and FIFA and the NAACP or whatever other bloody, the IAAF and all these other places? Why aren't they being... Why is it just Russia? And I'd just like to point out here, I'm not defending what Putin's doing here. That's not the point. What is it? I don't agree with it. I don't. They're all saying at the moment that, BBC... we should document the war crimes. Yes, we should. We should document the war crimes. And if there have been any war crimes over there, he should face justice for them. Just as everybody else has. Or everybody else needs. And I'll come to a story a little bit later. Just showing how the United States is doing again. You know how they say, if you do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, then you're insane. It's Einstein who said that, wasn't it? They're doing the same right now in Ukraine that they did in the late 70s, early 80s with Afghanistan. Doing exactly the same. And those TV screens are not telling exactly what's... It's pretty much almost exactly going on. Proxy war. But yeah, this cancellation of Russians, what do you think? Do you think this is nonsense? I do. I think it's absolute rubbish. Propagandizing people into whipping up anti-Russian hate. I know, I've got a better idea. Instead of cancelling them all, let's just round them all up, shall we? And intern them in camps. Maybe has that been done before? Oh yeah, it has, hasn't it? One of the darkest days in history, that was, the Japanese. Might as well just do it again though, hadn't we? Yeah. Right, I'm going to talk to you now, people, about something that it has to be seen to be believed. This does. And I really mean that. So, I apologise if you're on TikTok. You won't be able to see this. You'll only be able to hear it. But I'm about to show you the craziest segment from daytime TV that, well, I think I've ever seen. You tell me whether you agree when you see it. This is a... How long is it? Let me just check this. This segment is 6 minutes long, right? This story is going to be a long one because I am going to be stopping and starting this segment over and over and over to just talk to you about the nonsense of it all. I know people don't like me stopping the video and they'd like to go and see it, to which case, you know what? You're on a channel that with my name on. I'm going to be doing commentary on this. If you want to see the video in its entirety, pause this video, go and watch it in entirety, then come back if you would like to do. But this is insane. And this person, I'm starting to dislike more and more, Whoopi. You were part of my childhood, Whoopi. I loved Ghost. What happened, Whoopi? How did you become a neocon warmonger like this? Just, I'll play it.
Well,
Insane.
hello, and welcome to The View, y'all. Sarah has the week off, and back as our guest co-host is CNN political commentator and former White House communications director, Alyssa Farah Griffin. Hello. So, Fox News' host, Tucker Carlson, is apparently a big hit in Russia right now.
Yeah.
The website Mother Jones posted a leaked Kremlin war memo instructing Russian state media to play Tucker Carlson.
By the way, what she's quoting there, she's obviously talking about Tucker Carlson. I mean, they're saying that there's a report in Russia of the Russians saying, look at this guy, Tucker Carlson, over in America. He's, spread those things. So they're saying he's, well, you'll see. But they're basing it on an article written in Mother Jones. Now, if you don't know who... it used to be good. Used to be great. But now it's become a neocon, just neoliberal... Not neocon, neoliberal pro-war propaganda rag. It's just disgusting. And the article in question was written by a guy called David Korn. And that guy is wrong on everything and was the most giant Russiagator there possibly was in America. So they're basing this anti-Russian, this anti-Russophobic view that they're going to take here on The View, on a report by that, just so you know. So it starts off with just terrible sourcing to begin with. And then just gets worse.
So, Fox News' host, Tucker Carlson, is apparently a big hit in Russia right now.
Yeah.
The website Mother Jones posted a leaked Kremlin war memo instructing Russian state media to play Tucker Carlson clips as much as possible. And Tulsi Gabbard is being accused of spreading Russian false flag propaganda. Here's what they've both been saying about the war. Take a look.
Okay. You know me. If any of this is false, I will tell you. Okay? I like Tulsi Gabbard. I don't agree with everything she does, but let's see.
Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason. Hating Putin has become the central purpose of America's foreign policy. Secret biolabs? Like the secret biolabs Ukraine definitely doesn't have? Ukraine has those? Yes, it does.
There are 25 to 30 U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. According to the U.S. government, these biolabs are conducting research on dangerous pathogens. Now, like COVID, these pathogens know no borders. If they are inadvertently or purposely breached or compromised, they will quickly spread all throughout Europe, the United States, and the rest of the world, causing untold suffering and death.
Okay. Everything that you heard from those two people there was perfectly true. Everything was perfectly reasonable, backed up with evidence, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's the worst that they can find, wow. I mean, they're going to have to go some here to spin this. And they do. They really do. Listen.
So Mitt Romney claims Gabbard is pushing treasonous lies that could cost lives. So I'm just going to open it up to the table. What the hell's going on?
So I think
Mitt Romney says Tulsi Gabbard is parroting false Russian propaganda. Her treasonous lies may well cost lives. There's no lies there. No lies. It's a fact. Victoria Nuland admitted that they were funding labs. They've admitted what Tulsi Gabbard said there. There's no lies about it, but this is Mitt Romney after. Victoria Nuland's admitted that they're funding after it's the US Department have admitted they're doing this. He's still saying she's pushing lies.
What the hell's going on?
So I think Mitt Romney's absolutely right, by the way. So what this is the Russians are spreading propaganda to try to create a pretext for potentially using chemical weapons against the Ukrainians.
Right.
So what they're parroting, what Tucker Carlson parrots every night on Fox News, what Tulsi Gabbard is spreading, is actually helping Putin get away with criminal acts against innocent Ukrainian civilians. It's horrifying. And what's so hard for me to understand, we've all been watching in horror as these people are being killed, mothers in maternity wings. Can you imagine taking the position of like, Putin, not so bad of a guy? It's just bizarre. It's un-American.
It's un-American. Really? I wonder if I could find an episode of The View where you're taking that stance on the war in Yemen, the babies that were blown up by Lockheed Martin bombs, by Saudi Arabia. By the way, you know, Saudi Arabia, who chopped the heads off people, 81 of them last week. Got anything to say bad about that? No? Is that because the people who just fed you all that information that you spewed didn't tell you to say that? Because clearly you've been told to say that, haven't you? And you've been told to have that view on The View. How is any of that Russian propaganda, by the way? Anything that Tulsi Gabbard or Tucker Carlson said there, how is it Russian propaganda? How is it Russian propaganda to say things that the US government have admitted? That US government spokespeople have admitted? How is that propaganda? Is it just an inconvenient truth?
Gets away with that. I mean,
it's the most watched man in cable news. It's actually really scary.
I'd just like to say, by the way, in that person's defence, she's probably the most sane person on that panel. It does get worse. There you go.
I think gets away with it. Putin or Tucker. If there's a Tucker and Laura Ingraham and Tulsi Gabbard, all of them.
Listen, the Fox board of directors should really step in. If they call themselves patriots and they, it's not enough to be posting flags about Ukraine. There's a bunch of folks on that board of directors list, like my friend Paul Ryan, who I wish would be weighing in and saying we cannot be Russian state TV, at least not every hour.
But what's I guess for me the question is what is it?
That was Anna Navarro, by the way, who's one of the biggest neocons you can possibly imagine. She's awful.
In it for someone like Tucker Carlson, right? I mean, is it?
So here's the innuendo and the conjecture and the smearing. She's like, this person immediately goes, what's in it for Tucker? Yeah, you can see what picture they're trying to paint here.
At least not every hour.
But what's I guess for me, the question is what is in it for someone like Tucker Carlson, right? I mean...
Well, the thing is, he's a journalist and he's trying to get to the truth of things, and he actually, as abhorrent some of his views are, I believe, I do believe that you could have a talk with him about them, and I don't think he's a dishonest actor in any way, maybe misguided. And he has admitted that in the past that certain views that he's changed his mind once he's had a conversation with people on the other side of things. And his foreign policy, his anti-war, he's consistent on that. That's what's in it for him. He actually thinks that these dollars that are being spent abroad and sent to Ukraine should be sent on your own crumbling infrastructure. I saw something earlier. That it was just a meme, I think, and it said the US sent weapons and guns to Ukraine faster than they sent water to Flint. Flint has, I think, still got dirty water. Check Jordan Chariton. His great work on that. It's like they sent 13.6 billion, then another billion they signed off on in a day. What happened to Flint? Why hasn't that been spent at home? Of course, none of these people will ask those questions. But they get their platform to speak to millions on The View every day and push this garbage.
Is it money? Who's paying him?
I mean, they're saying here that it's Russian propaganda. It's propaganda that Carlson is. Tucker Carlson isn't doing the propaganda here. These silly farts are.
That money. Yeah. I'm not making any allegations, but it doesn't make sense that he would.
What's in it for him? Where's he getting his money from? Who's he being paid by? I'm not making any allegations. You literally just made 3.
I mean, is it money? Who's paying him that money? Yeah. I'm not making any allegations, but it doesn't make sense that he would.
Is it his money? He's paying him that money. It doesn't make sense that he would do this. I'm not making any allegations. You just made 3. In that same sentence.
do this kind of thing. I mean, he also says that the United States helped encourage the Russian invasion. He said the United States...
They did. They did. They provoked it. Most of my reporting over the last few weeks and my research has pointed me to the fact that, yeah, we've been provoking this for years. I'll be talking about it later and giving more evidence of how the US and NATO have provoked it. So, he said that. What else did he say that was factual, that you're going to call lies and propaganda?
He says that the United States helped encourage the Russian invasion. He said the United States engineered a coup in Ukraine in the name of democracy.
They did. 2014. As I said, Oliver Stone's Ukraine on Fire, which YouTube have taken down, by the way. You have to go and see it on Rumble, but you can see it for free. It lays it out pretty clearly. You know, if you look, Victoria Nuland pretty much, well, I mean, we proved it with her leaked phone call weeks before that coup. Basically picking who was going to be the next president. We've heard I've played that tape for you, haven't I? If you haven't seen that tape, go and watch it on all of my platforms. Okay, so that's two things she's charged him with that are accurate. What's the next?
He, as we just mentioned, confirmed these Russian claims about bioweapons.
Your own government have confirmed those.
And he's characterizing this situation as a border dispute.
I don't know whether I'd agree with the last one, but is that it? Is that your Russian? You've charged him with Russian propaganda because he characterized it as a border dispute? When you could argue, yeah, more than that. I don't understand what he's done wrong here.
Right? And so what is in it for him? I know that he's...
I'm not making any accusations. I know he's a journalist doing journalism, but what's in it for him, really? You know?
He's visited Moscow and other places, and you can tell me in my ear.
He's visited Moscow. Has he got any Russian friends? Did he meet Daniel Medvedev? Did he speak highly of Yuri Gagarin once on One News Report in 2004? What is going on here? Haven't we done this episode of history? Open a history book. Women on the View. Go to M. Go to McCarthyism. Learn about Joseph McCarthy. Because you're doing exactly the same thing right now.
Claims about bioweapons.
Bioweapons, which your own government officials have admitted. And as I've shown on that recount video, slipped up badly.
And he's characterizing this situation as a border dispute. Right? And so what is in it for him? I know that he's visited Moscow and other places, and you can tell me in my ear if I'm wrong about that. But I just don't understand what the impetus is.
Right, okay. I am 3 minutes 30. I'm almost halfway through this. This is incredible, isn't it? It's insane. Correct? It gets worse. Much worse.
I hope he's planning to move to Moscow because he's not going to be welcome here for much longer.
Yeah, so here's a smear. So there you go. There's this Joy Behar. He's obviously very tough. Knows her foreign policy and knows her stuff. Certainly knows the news better than Tucker Carlson does, even though that's his job. But she knows better. Not going to be welcome in the United States much, he says.
I think...
do his viewers like it?
I don't know. I don't think...
Do his viewers like it? Is it the truth? What happened to you people when... He's on a news show. He's meant to be telling you the news. He's meant to be giving you facts and the truth and informing people.
Ratings have dropped at all. And look, but I think that's an incredibly relevant question. Yeah. And I think DOJ, in the same way that it is setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs, should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin. That's being...
Shilling for Putin now. She's just... They've now gone... So, the guy has said factual stuff on his news show that the United States government officials have admitted to, And now it's gone from, who's he working for? Is he working for the Russians? Why is he doing this? Is he a Putin? To outright saying he's shilling for Putin. These women are crazy.
DOJ, in the same way that it is.
And DOJ, that's the Department of Justice she's invoking now. This woman is just... Her background is kind of like a family background as well. I have to investigate more, but what I heard was true.
Setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin.
Can you hear? Can you see? She keeps looking down here. It's almost like somebody else has written the notes for us, like they've got cards.
That's being, if you are a foreign asset to a dictator, it should be investigated. In fact, I remember...
A dictator, yeah. Because your elections are all above board, aren't they, eh?
Remember when Tulsi Gabbard, and I even hate that we're discussing it because I think to myself, who is this woman?
Well, I'll tell you who Tulsi Gabbard is. Tulsi Gabbard is a current serving major in the United States Army, in the National Guard. National Guard, not the National Guard. She's a current major. She was on tour in Africa just a few months ago. Now, I gave her shit on Twitter for it. I'm like, why are you over there in... I gave her crap for it. As many other people did. That's who she is. She's a former congressperson for Hawaii and a serving major in the military. Just listen to how this Ana Navarro person depicts her.
To a dictator, it should be investigated. In fact, I remember when Tulsi Gabbard, and I even hate that we're discussing it because I think to myself, who is this woman? She's she's no longer in Congress. She's a failed presidential candidate. Yeah. She only...
Yeah, whereas Kamala Harris, she's... The light shines from her behind, doesn't it, Anna? She's not a failed presidential candidate. Tulsi got further than Kamala did. Tulsi handed Kamala her ass on stage. But I bet you love Kamala, don't you?
Practically exists on Twitter, and the fact that we're giving her oxygen is what makes her relevant, that we're talking about her on hot topics. But on the other hand, how do you not call out something that is repeating false Russian propaganda?
There's nothing false. Can you give me any evidence that what Tucker and Tulsi there said was false? Because everything they said, the United States government have admitted.
Makes her relevant, that we're talking about her on hot topics. But on the other hand, how do you not call out something that is repeating false Russian propaganda that has been brought down?
They used to arrest people for doing stuff.
I told you it was going to get crazier. This is Whoopi. Or as I'm going to start calling her Whoopsie.
On the other hand, how do you not call out something that is repeating false Russian propaganda that has been brought down?
They used to arrest people for doing stuff like this. If they thought you were colluding with a Russian agent, if they thought you were putting out information or taking information and handing over to Russia, they used to actually investigate stuff like this. And I guess now, there seems to be no bars. And people are not being told to hate Putin. Putin doesn't need a reason to be hated.
People aren't being told to hate Putin. What, so cancelling Tchaikovsky and Yuri Gagarin and Daniel Medvedev and everything Russian and Russian vodka and cancelling it all, none of that is telling people to hate Russia and Putin. Eh? None of that is... Are you crackers? What happened to you, woman?
It's pretty much clear.
He started a war.
He started an unnecessary war that nobody wanted.
Isn't this contributing to the...
She's, just so you understand there, she's calling for the arrest of a high-profile journalist for telling the truth about their own government stuff their own government has admitted to, and Whoopi Goldberg is calling for his arrest and the arrest of a serving major in her own National Guard for saying things that are factually true. This is insane.
The death and destruction of the country and the civilians there?
Well, this is why I say, how can they pat themselves on the back and say, good job?
Well,
when you know he just blew up a hospital with children. Well, Fox viewers know it. They see it.
Do you think they got their panties in a bunch when about the Afghanistan? Do you remember when Biden pulled out of Afghanistan and those, 70-odd people were killed? There was 170 people, 170 Afghanis were killed, weren't they? In that drone strike. Do you remember? In that strike? And all those innocent people that were killed in that withdrawn, in that debacle from Afghanistan? And the reports of American soldiers, US soldiers firing into the crowd. That was from the BBC as well. Do you think they got their panties in a bunch about that? About all that stuff going on? But no, because it's in... I'm not saying that what's happening in Ukraine isn't bad. It is. What I'm pointing out is the propagandists here are not Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard. What I'm pointing out here, the propagandists now are not necessarily just on your news shows. They're on your daytime TV shows, and it's coming through Oscar-winning actresses. Wouldn't that be? Isn't that just a perfect person to be able to propagandize a nation and hoodwink them into believing that the bad guys are the bad guys and you're the good guys, despite the fact that you've done 100 times worse than the bad guys have ever done? Isn't it a perfect person to be giving you bullshit propaganda and gaslighting you than an Oscar-winning actress? I mean, you can see them all looking down at their notes that have had. You can see they've been briefed.
Viewers do know it. My concern also is, do the Russian people don't know it? No. I know this weekend, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Instagram was taken down in Russia. They really are. They almost have a digital curtain now over all information coming out of Russia. And I think a lot.
Can you believe that they're doing this? This is the same segment. They are pointing the finger at Russia and saying, look how undemocratic Russia and Putin are. Because they've banned social media, they've banned Facebook, they've banned Instagram. They are banning sources of information. They are shutting down information. In the same segment as saying Tucker Carlson should go to jail for publishing information that's true. How can you square this circle in your head? How can you say that what Tucker Carlson is doing is terrible and treasonous and deserves prison time and an investigation, whilst pointing the finger at another country and saying they're the ones who are restricting free speech?
A lot of Russians, they've been reporting, they believe that this war is some sort of great mission.
They think it's a peacekeeping mission because that's what's being reported on TV.
Except for the people who are out protesting.
He's not saying it's a peacekeeping mission at all. He's actually saying it's far more complex than that. And with regards to the protesters, listen, right? I'm old enough to remember the Black Lives Matter protests. I'm old enough to remember helicopters, military helicopters over the heads of journalists in the middle of Washington, D.C. Don't stop pointing the finger at crackdowns on journalists in Russia.
But in the same way, it almost seems impossible to believe. And then you realize there's people in America who think January 6th was, some sort of patriotic act. So misinformation works.
It does. But, those of us in the know should keep our...
I'm sorry. Then she brought up January the 6th, and then they sign off with this. Those of us in the know. I've got to play it out. This is brilliant.
Who think January 6th?
You actually had to fit January the 6th into this segment. She's got to bring in some anti-Trump stuff. Remember, Trump's the bad guy, everybody. You follow this line, otherwise, scary, you'll get the scary bad guy again.
Was, some sort of patriotic act. So misinformation works.
It does. But, those of us in the know should keep our eyes on what's...
Misinformation works, it does, and those of us on the know should keep our eyes on the situation. Yeah, well, I'm in the know. Whoopsie. I am in the know. And I'm telling everybody right now, and my audience right now, that the misinformation here is coming from your own studio and your own mouth, and it's coming in spades, and it's almost non-stop. What is it Sun Tzu says? Accuse the other side of that which you are guilty of. I think that applies here, don't you? That was a crazy cracker. That was crazy, wasn't it? Don't you agree, everybody? That was mad. That's completely mad. That's 6 minutes of absolute insanity. And that is allowed, by the way. And by the way, I'm not calling for that to be censored or censured or I'm calling for an open debate where, somebody with actual facts can sit there and give the other side to this. And then, because if we've got all the information, then we can make an informed decision, can't we? If we're only shown half the information, we won't get the right inference. We won't infer the right thing. If we only get half the information, if we only get one side of a story. If I keep saying, if you miss the first half of Cinderella, we'll end up thinking that Prince Charming is a weirdo with a foot fetish. We need all of the information. So it's great that the viewer out there doing that propaganda, but hey, you carry on. But we need an actual healthy discourse where you can respond and not be suppressed to hell and lose your social media platform and have your voice quashed whilst everybody there spewing that nonsense gets on the corporate algorithm on YouTube. When that goes on YouTube, that'll get more views than it will from anywhere. And obviously they've turned all the comments off now. So all the comments, you can't see people calling them out. And then they've hidden the dislike button as well. So you can't see the audience, when the audience, totally dislikes something, you can't see the ratio. That's called being ratio. All of these things are manipulating the way you and I are thinking. All of these things are doing that. And you have to ask why, who from, and to what benefit. And there I am making an accusation, not like that lady who was saying, no, I'm not making any accusation. I'm making an accusation. I'm saying, listen, I think this is being done on purpose, because if it's not, then we need to stop and go back because we're doing things wrong. But you can clearly see that our minds are being manipulated here. I talked about earlier about how So I talked earlier, I've done a video about this a few weeks ago, about Hillary Clinton going on Rachel Maddow's show and basically calling for war crimes against Russians and the collective punishment of Russian people, which is a war crime according to Geneva Convention, Article 33, I think it is. In that same segment, she was... let's take a listen. She said this.
The Russians invaded Afghanistan back in 1980. And although no country went in, they certainly had a lot of countries supplying arms and advice and even some advisors to those who were recruited to fight Russia. It didn't end well for the Russians. There were other unintended consequences, as we know, but
Really, what were they? What were they, Hillary? Hey? What were they? Never expanded on that in that interview, did you?
The fact is that
she never expanded on that interview. She just glossed over it. She mentioned Afghanistan. Well, I'd like to give you, sir, I'd like to present you with some information of somebody that gives you a fuller story on what she's talking about there. I give you Hillary Clinton from a few years back. This is what she used to say about Afghanistan and what went on over there. Take a listen.
We also have a history of kind of moving in and out of Pakistan. I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago. And we did it.
She's talking about the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. She's talking about those people that they were funding in that war against Russia, that proxy war. They were arming, funding the Mujahideen and all sorts of fringe organisations to keep Russia bogged down in a war on its border.
Because we were locked in this struggle with the Soviet Union. They invaded Afghanistan, and we did not want to see them control Central Asia, and we went to work. And it was President Reagan in partnership with the Congress, led by Democrats, who said, you know what, sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's deal with the ISI and the Pakistani military, and let's go recruit.
ISI, Pakistani military, Azov battalion, far-right groups in Ukraine and Europe instead of Asia. Can you see the connection here I'm trying to make?
These Mujahideen, and let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam so that we can go beat the Soviet Union. And guess what? They retreated. They lost billions of dollars, and it led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So there's a very strong argument, which is, wasn't a bad investment to end the Soviet Union, but let's be careful what we sow because we will harvest.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. They're doing the same thing over and over here. They're doing exactly the same thing right now in Ukraine as they did in Afghanistan all those years ago. And there's Hillary Clinton saying that, okay, yeah, it brought the fall of the Soviet Union, but look at what we harvested as a result of that. What I'm talking about, of course, is bin Laden, who was one of the brave Mujahideen fighters back then. What could go wrong? I mean, if you've got people in power who know what they're doing is a mistake, but then they carry on doing it anyway, you have to ask, why are they doing this? Who benefits from it? Because we aren't benefiting from it, are we? But they, on the other hand, seem to just get richer and richer and richer, face no repercussions for any crimes that they've committed. I mean, I believe that this woman is a war criminal, but she's calling for Vladimir Putin to face war crimes on a tribunal. You know, do I need to bring up the fact that this woman's husband was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 26 times? You know, when she sits down with Rachel Maddow next, you think Rachel Maddow might go, Hillary, just a question. What do you think about your husband being on Bill Clinton being on, on Epstein's plane all those times without without his security detail, I hear, and these, charity flights in Africa and whatever. What do you think about him? Has she faced one question at all? Have any of them faced any questions at all? So why are we listening to them again? Why is she allowed back on TV to spew her rubbish when she herself contradicts herself? Answers on a postcard, please. Personally, I think we should jail all war criminals. I think there should be But if you do that, you're pretty much going to be jailing everybody, aren't you? Pretty much every leader we've had since World War II, and America, for sure. I think we need peace. I think we need more peace. I think we need a lot more peace. I think we need to stop listening to people like this. And anybody who platforms them and gives them an interview and doesn't ask them about her husband's trips on the Lolita Express. Oh, by the way, Podestas. Yeah, the Podestas. They're in the DNC, aren't they, Hillary? Can you confirm or deny they were in Portugal around the time of Madeleine McCann's disappearance? Because this is a question I'd like answered, if you don't mind. It's disgusting. They really are. They should be nowhere near the airwaves. Or if they are, we should at least have balancing side to it. Right, I'm going to show you now. It's been horrible, hasn't it? This stream, hasn't it? Really, it's been a bit depressing. So I'm going to show you something now that, well, especially if you're British, especially if you're from Liverpool, I know a lot of my supporters are. This is somebody I think to celebrate. It's not all doom. It's not all doom and gloom, because there are people in the world who are good people, and this guy's obviously a great person, and it's no wonder to me that he's not celebrated the way other people are celebrated in this country because of the things he says. He stands up for what is right. I'm talking about Paddy the Baddie, Paddy the Baddie Pimblett. This guy, if you don't know who he is just broke into the UFC. He's a badass. He fought last night, I think. I haven't seen the fight yet. Don't spoil it. But this is his press conference from a couple of days ago. Now, I don't need to say any more than to just play this.
Before we get started, if there's any reporters from the Sun in here, don't dare ask me a question. Don't put me in that rag of a newspaper. Just thought I'd get that in. Yeah.
Did you catch that? He says, just before I get started, if there's any reporters in here from the Sun, that rag of a newspaper, don't ask me any questions. Don't even get me started. So straight off, I'm like, yeah, great. Obviously, the Sun, all the lies they told about Hillsborough, unforgivable as far as, I mean, it's still not sold in Liverpool, that paper, and rightly so.
Before we get started,
but listen to this guy. He's only young, this guy is. He's incredible.
If there's any reporters from the Sun in here, don't dare ask me a question. Don't put me in that rag of a newspaper. Just thought I'd get that in. Yeah. End of.
Have you ever heard back from anyone at Meta or Instagram or Facebook, whatever they're calling themselves these days, about that incident?
So he was banned from Facebook, I think, and he's talking about the censorship going on at the moment. Just listen to this.
No, lad, they don't give a fuck. They message you back saying, oh, you've had your account up for bullying and harassment, you've had so many violations. Like, on my page, the last few times I've had, like, reports and violations, it's been when I took a young lad to the match and people started commenting about his appearance. The lad had never been to a football match before, and his dad had just died, so I wanted to do something nice for him. So people started commenting disgusting things about him, so I had back and forth with them. And then the last one was for little baby Lee, who you're going to see on Friday because I'm bringing him out to the weigh-in with me. He's got brain tumour, cancer, he's got all sorts of things wrong with him. And he's 3 years old, he's got no hair because of all the chemotherapy. And some absolute disgusting piece of shit commented something horrible about him. And I've got morals, you know what I mean? I'm a human, I can't just sit there. But what I did at first, because everyone at the UFC told me to, I reported the comment. And I got it with a notification back 20 minutes later. This comment does not go against our community guidelines, so we will not remove it.
This is one of the reasons why I left Facebook, apart from the fact that it is the most diabolical spying apparatus on the planet. But it's for this reason. They are not equal in the way they moderate platforms. They're not equal at all. And it's clear that that's the case. If ever you have been on that platform and faced any sort of problem with the suspension, but it's getting as bad with other platforms as well, YouTube, etc. But I'll let this guy carry on, because this is indicative. You complain about what they say when they're complaining about, when they're talking about a lad's appearance who's just lost his dad in his first football match, trying to do a nice thing, another kid with cancer, going through chemotherapy who's got no hair, having a go at his appearance. That doesn't go against community guidelines, but this does.
So then I called him a piece of shit. I said, you dirty piece of shit, you're a piece of vermin on my shoe. And the next day my account was disabled. It's the hypocritical nature of Instagram and Facebook is just disgusting, and what they get away with. Like, I just, oh, it kills me. Mark Zuckerberg's a lizard.
Mark Zuckerberg's a lizard.
We heard from Alex Volkov earlier. He said he shut his social media off ahead of this fight. Are you ever tempted to do that? Just turn it off for a while to detox from it?
Yeah, of course. I've had to do that before. I've done that when I was in America for a bit and just let someone else do it. But I feel like, as I say, I like helping people, and my social media platform gives me a chance to help people. I'm not one of them where it's just all about me. I feel the need to help people, especially because of the platform I've got, and my social media does that. Like, even the way I've started streaming on Twitch, and I had a message on Twitter the other day of someone saying, oh lad, I know we didn't interact on Twitch, but the fact that you even streamed tonight has put a smile on my face and made me think better. And I said to him, do you mind if I put that up? I put it on my Twitter, and getting messages like that is better than getting any sort of payment. Someone saying to me, oh, you've just made my night there, just for me being myself and doing something like that. Like, not on a level compared to that. The warm fuzzy feeling you get inside, it's special, lad, it really is.
I don't know about you, but I want to see more of this guy. I really do. I've only just in the last few months become aware of him, and what he's saying there is so important. He's somebody that needs almost magnifying, isn't he? He's straight talking there. People will just love him. People who are in the chat, I know, saying, you know, everybody, Scousers are straight talkers. They just are. And they don't get any more straight talking than that, do they? And look at what he's banned now. He can't have a Facebook account, Meta account. They've banned him arbitrarily. These companies, on behalf of corporations, are deciding who can and who can't have a voice. That's called corporate fascism. And I agree with Paddy the Baddie Pimblett. What Facebook and Meta get away with is disgusting. Mark Zuckerberg's a lizard. I agree. Isn't he great though? Isn't he fantastic? I do hope he won last night. He's absolutely fantastic. He really is. Okay. I've been going an hour and a half. That's okay. Because there's something else I want to talk to you about, and this is important as well. And it's like a 20-minute video. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be stopping this and talking as well, but it's kind of important, this, because, like I say, you're only hearing one side of the story from over in Ukraine. I get a lot of my stuff from elsewhere. There's a lot of outside interest in this country. If the United States can get Russia involved in a long, arduous proxy war on their border, the same way as they got in a proxy war with the Mujahideen. I mean, what sort of blowback is going to come from that? You know? We got Bin Laden out of the Mujahideen. Who are going to get out of the Azov battalion? Of course, these things are never thought of. It's just the whole hegemonic, make them think we're going to go as far as possible. attitude that has got us to this stage. We're on the verge of World War III. No détente. There's no real adults in it. And you're getting a lot of rhetoric from the mainstream at the moment about how we need to save democracy in Ukraine. Well, democratic societies don't lock up journalists who are adversarial. At least they shouldn't. So people are screaming Julian Assange at the TV right now, and rightly so. We're doing exactly that. Lawfare on a journalist, which is a crime itself. Meaning the judges who are extending this, the people who are extending his torture, should be facing trial themselves. I do hope they are one day. I do hope that they do see the inside of a courtroom from the other side. People who have extended his torture. But whenever dictators go into a country, whenever a dictator takes over, whenever somebody anti-democratic takes over, one of the things that they always go after are the free press. And Ukraine is no different. After the coup in 2004, backed by the US, made armed protest. This is a story in Mint Press News, and it's by, well, it's from 2019. This is Eva Bartlett, who is a journalist who is great. If you haven't seen her work before. And she's gone over and interviewed journalists in Ukraine who were imprisoned. Yes, imprisoned. They were imprisoned on the back of absurd claims made by the Ukrainian government of treason, because they were critical of Zelensky. It's a puppet! And the way he was conducting his business, and the previous government to that as well. Actually, these outlets have been critical of all governments, including the pro-Russian ones. But I will stop and start this at the points, and I'll also do some voiceover because he's talking in Ukrainian. Okay. So this guy was imprisoned by Zelensky. Puppet. I think it was Zelensky.
Kirill, first, it's very nice to meet you.
Thanks.
You were recently released from Ukrainian imprisonment. For those who aren't aware, can you briefly outline the basics of your case?
So he says, I was accused of state treason. This means, to those on TikTok, these are the words of this Ukrainian journalist who was imprisoned 14 months before judge demanded he released. There were, I think, 3 organisations that Zelensky shut down when Biden got inaugurated. I think it was back then. But it was a gift to Biden. But anyway, this journalist, get his name, Kirill Vyshinsky. Kirill, get your name right, buddy. He says, I was accused of state treason. This means that according to the investigation, an exact quote, 72 articles were posted on a website controlled by me.
На подконтрольном мне сайте были размещены 72 статьи, из которых я был автором только одной. И эти 72 статьи, по утверждению следствия, должны были разрушить независимое и суверенное украинское государство, вплоть до полного вхождения территориального его в состав Российской Федерации. Это общая фабула обвинения.
And that's the general plot of the prosecution. So that is what he's being charged with. He's been charged of basically trying to overthrow the government. Kind of hypocritical, isn't it?
Детализация
And then there was the detailing, and these details were, in my opinion, even more absurd. For example, the investigation claimed that in these articles I included appeals to overthrow the constitutional system and change the borders of Ukraine. At the same time, an examination conducted by the SBU Research Institute stated that in those articles, where there were alleged appeals for the destruction of the state and the overthrow of the constitutional system, there were no Russian language appeals in terms of semantics at all. So this
Поэтому, с моей точки
зрения,
все, в чем меня обвиняли, было где-то вот на грани абсурда, с абсурдом.
And you were held from May 2018 until when?
27-го. Мой арест был масштабным. В ходе моего ареста проводился обыск в 10 местах. В моей квартире,
10 places were searched: in my apartment, 2 editorial offices, the apartment of my elderly parents who have not lived with for more than 30 years. Does this sound like a democratic and free society he's talking about here, with a free and fair media? Does this sound like anything that they're saying on the mainstream right now that Ukraine is? Does it sound free and fair and democratic?
В квартире моих коллег, а также в юридических офисах нескольких компаний. Ну, юридические адреса фирм, которые были связаны.
In the apartments of my colleagues, all in order to keep him detained. So you can see here, he's been charged with something. His whole life has been been turned upside down. All of his family members and his relations, elderly parents, they've all been searched. So it's totally and utterly turned his life upside down. They've imprisoned him. They've shut down his offices. They've confiscated all of his files. They've ruined the guy's life. There's nothing democratic about that. That is the shutting down of news outlets. There's no doubt about it. And if you don't have a viable fourth estate, you don't have democracy. I've been saying that about our country for years. And currently, he's still accused of all the charges that have been brought against him. I think that's still the case, by the way. I think he's still accused. I know they did drop it. But for a lot of these reporters, it's the same thing. The case is still open. So if he was to somehow get a platform and start doing his shit again, you know what's going to happen. The same thing is going to happen again. This is why the Julian Assange thing is so important. How can we, as a country, say... I mean, I honestly think that this is the case. We're not pointing this out, the UK aren't, because we can't. How can we point out that Ukraine are locking up journalists when we've got Julian Assange in Belmarsh without any charge whatsoever?
Обвиняемый вот по всем тем обвинениям, которые мне были предъявлены. Меня освободили из тюрьмы, но
I was released from prison, but the charges were not dropped.
Ну, я понял, что да. Ну, я
должен
являться на заседании суда. Или, по крайней мере, участвовать в заседании суда. Но пока я еще не решил, как это будет организовано. Я собираюсь принимать участие в заседании суда, но я думаю, сейчас думаю над формой.
Are you worried or wary that you might be further persecuted at these trials?
Я этого не исключаю. Причем я не исключаю не только ареста, ну, кроме государства, на другие способы.
I'm not even sure whether this is still going on because
of
the situation over there. He said there are radical nationalist organisations that came outside the courthouse where they held the rally. There were threats made towards him and his lawyer. Therefore, the situation, despite the fact that I am free, is still not okay. Of course not. I've explained how in Ukraine, one of the things that the United States have been doing is funding fringe elements and the media that's pro-fringe element, if you like, to stir up a hornet's nest there. We've seen this MO in Syria and other places. Iran, Libya.
Radical organizations have attacked journalists?
Ну, мой коллега...
His colleague and friend Oleg Buzina was killed.
Олесь Бузина, он был убит. Его жена работала у меня на компании до тех пор, пока редакцию не разогнали. Я регулярно встречался, я вижу родственников моих бывших коллег.
Has anything changed regarding freedom of speech since President Zelensky came to power?
Мне сложно сказать что-то.
So she's asking about freedom of speech since Zelensky, his puppet, came to power. He said it's hard for me to say anything about this. I bet it is. I bet you're shit scared. I bet you're shit scared, mate. Yes, journalists, like many other people, are now called political prisoners.
Из тюрем, как и многих людей, которых сегодня на Украине называют политическими заключенными. Это не устоявшийся термин, но тем не менее общепринятый разговор. Журналисты выходят из тюрьмы, но дела против них не закрываются. Более того, несколько журналистов были оправданы судом, получили оправдательные приговоры. Вышли из тюрьмы, но прокуратура подает апелляции, и их дела пересматриваются. Сейчас в стадии пересмотра. Это если говорить о конкретных журналистах, а можно же говорить о редакциях, решении лицензии.
He's having to be very careful in his wording of the questions to Eva because he's worried that he's going to face serious consequences back home. You know, serious consequences with this thing that was going on at the time. And this is one of the reasons why authoritative regimes come down on the media like this so hard when they come in, is to send a message that the United States are getting and the United Kingdom are torturing Julian Assange because it's sending a message to all the other journalists around the world. You cannot tell the truth about our crimes. Otherwise, look at what we do to you. And this is the same thing going on right here. At least you tell me whether that's the case. I certainly believe it. Depriving the information channel 112 Ukraine of a license is an event of the past week.
Вот это событие
2019, like I said.
Журналисты, которые оказались в эмиграции, главный редактор интернет-сайта «Страна.ua» Игорь Гужва, он сейчас в Вене, но он пока не готов вернуться в Украину, поскольку дела против него не закрыты. Поэтому я не могу сказать, что ничего не изменилось, но, с другой стороны, эти изменения пока не радикальны.
Since Zelensky got in power, we know that since this interview took place, he's closed down more stations. Zelensky did.
Не могу сказать, что ничего не изменилось, но, с другой стороны, эти изменения пока не радикальные.
During your over a year imprisonment, you never had an actual trial about your case. You had many delayed hearings, if I understand. Do you feel, has anything changed that you feel you will eventually have?
That's an interesting point that Eva's making there. During your whole thing, you never had a trial. And that's interesting, isn't it? The whole Julian Assange thing, he's never had a trial about the implications of the war crimes, etc. That can't come up. Same sort of thing. Called lawfare. It's punishing people by manipulating the law to your benefit. It's a crime.
A fair trial?
Ну, на самом деле, по сути, дело даже не начало рассматриваться. Был зачитан обвинительный акт, но не допрошены никакие свидетели, не изучались материалы дела, то есть это все начальная стадия. А дальше, да, были переносы.
When I met with Andrei Dimmack earlier this year, he predicted that the authorities would likely come after him and find some sort of pretext to remove him from Kirill's case. I believe that he has been antagonized. Do you know what Mr. Dimmack's situation is right now?
Ну, давление на Даманского продолжается, и какой-то момент даже стало сильнее, чем в то время, пока я находился в тюрьме. Против него возбуждено уголовное дело по какой-то старой истории еще 2013 года. Вот весной этого года оно возбуждено, и Андрей был в какой-то момент, когда просто он не каждый день должен был являться в прокуратуру на следственные действия, что вообще лишало его возможности принимать участие в каком бы то ни было судебном. Ну, то есть, по сути, лишало его возможности зарабатывать деньги.
Perhaps people in North America or in the West in general aren't aware of the absurdities of the current legal system. I recall Mr. Dimmack telling me that you had to review the case files, something 20 or 30 volumes of books, and that you weren't always given the necessary amount of time in order to review these files.
All right, I'm just going to skip forward now a couple of minutes because he talks about here how You know what? I'm not. Let me translate what he says, because I suppose this is indicative of what they're doing to journalists around the world, and we're doing to Julian Assange as well. They gave him no time to review his case whatsoever. None.
Но, значит, в моем
He
деле
said there were
есть
26 main
26
volumes
основных
in
томов.
his case.
Это вот такие
These are
вот
thick books of A4 format,
книги
300 to 350
форматом
pages each.
А4, в которых по 300-350 страниц. И у меня
And there are 5
это только
additional
основные,
volumes
а
and a
есть
large
еще
amount
5
of information on
дополнительных,
computer
а есть
media that
также
was
большой
seized in
объем
the editorial
информации
office.
на компьютерных носителях, потому что они изымались в редакции, и все, так сказать, ну, сегодняшняя любая редакция, это, конечно же, набор неких виртуальных текстов. И вот эти 30 с лишним томов мне на них дали 1,5 месяца, но это были только рабочие дни. Ну, то есть, и посчитайте. То есть,
what the judge gave him there when they've put the charges to him, and obviously there was never any trial, but they gave him, he had to read a volume of data a day, 350, 400 pages a day for 6 weeks. And that's his preparation. That's all the time that they gave him, just 6 weeks. And then to make a case.
And how much were you able to get through?
Ну, я уловил в какой-то момент там методику всего этого дела, как были построены тома. И так более-менее подробно изучил примерно 10 томов ключевых. Значит, остальное действительно пролистывал и совсем немного познакомился с материалами электронными.
And I realize you can't speak details of his case, but is there anything you can say about this evidence presented to incriminate him as guilty?
Я считаю обвинения абсурдными, под которые просто в принципе нет доказательств. Если само экспертное учреждение СБУ признает, что в текстах, где якобы должны были быть призывы, там этих призывов не было, то что я могу тогда вообще трезво оценивать? Какой уровень доказательств?
You recently, I think it was on September 25th, handed a list of to the Federal Council in Russia, a list of 12 journalists who are being persecuted in Ukraine. Can you speak about them and what you think should be done to them?
Это мои коллеги, которые оказались, большинство из этих людей оказались в тюрьме, и некоторые из них до сих пор там находятся. В общей массе у них точно такие же обвинения, как у меня, примерно по тем же статьям. Единственное, что их отличает, у некоторых есть еще статьи по пособничеству террористам. Это значит, что они делали какие-то сюжеты или материалы, или статьи про то, как живут люди в ДНР или ЛНР. Или делали просто какие-то критические материалы, связанные с периодом правления Порошенко. Подчеркну, что некоторые из них, вот, например, Елена Бойко из Львова, она до сих пор в тюрьме. Многих выпустили, но перед этим они сидели кто 2 года, кто год, кто 1,5, кто полгода. То есть они за свою журналистскую деятельность были обвинены в антигосударственной деятельности. И подчеркну, что даже в тех случаях, когда суды кого-то из них оправдывали, прокуратура сейчас по-прежнему опротестовывает эти оправдательные приговоры. Практически сразу. То есть эти люди практически там по-моему, там практически нет людей, которые сегодня не находятся под разными формами уголовного преследования. У кого-то суды еще впереди, у кого-то впереди еще апелляции или рассмотрение по новой, но все они по-прежнему в той или иной степени в статусе обвиняемых или подозреваемых.
This is lawfare, plain and simple.
Я могу сказать о себе, я в изоляторе временного содержания, просто опять же, что такое, понимает ли она разницу между следственным изолятором и изолятором внешнего временного содержания. Я не знаю. Уже непосредственно сама... СИЗО это, по сути, тюрьма. То есть, какие условия? Точно не как в американской тюрьме, наверное. Какой мы себе представляем ее по фильму. То есть, гораздо хуже. Смотрите, я не могу говорить о конкретных условиях тех людей,
he talks about the prisons not being too great, but he doesn't really go into any main details. So I'm just going to fast forward this a little bit and concentrate on, what they're doing journalistically over there. Now, obviously, because I've done that, decided to crash.
По крайней мере, так было благодарен. Потому что без резонанса, без привлечения внимания к этому, вообще никто вообще не узнает о том, что такие серьезные проблемы с свободой слова в Украине.
No one will ever know that there are freedom of speech problems in Ukraine, he's saying there. Only external pressure, at least like what there was under Poroshenko, could somehow change the situation.
Только давление извне способно как-то изменить. На мой взгляд, по крайней мере, так было при Порошенко, что только давление извне могло как-то изменить ситуацию. Поскольку в самом обществе сформирована такая атмосфера, что если человека обвиняют, журналиста, или вешают в ярлык без границ.
Because this is important, I was saying to you earlier how, and I've spoken a lot over the last few weeks about how if you hide part of a story and if you hide certain information, you can manipulate minds. It's been well documented that those who control the media control the minds of, and you can really manipulate people into believing, anything is true. And what's the famous Malcolm X quote? If you're not careful, the media will have you hating persecuted, loving the persecutors. And I think that's a beautiful expression because it's so true. And he goes into details here of how the Ukrainian people's minds have been manipulated. And I've done videos in the past, you can go and look at them, of how Victoria Nuland is on tape before the coup happened in 2014, bragging how the United States had invested 10 billion in Ukraine in stuff like the media. And, and that's before the coup. Since then, we've had other media outlets pop up and Nancy Pelosi's son appear on them saying, I'm here to talk about soccer that I've shown you. If you manipulate the media in this way, you can get a nation to believe in pretty much anything. Right now, you've got the whole country, it seems, saying, we'd like to take in Ukrainian refugees, please, for £350 a month, not realising how hypocritical you sound when you say that, I don't want any Palestinians or Syrians there. You don't sound racist or hypocritical at all. Now, they're under occupations too, but hey, that some victims are more worthy than others. Can you see how minds are being manipulated like this? And he goes into some detail here of how the media landscape has been restructured to be able to honestly get Ukrainians to believe whatever it is that the government of Ukraine, the puppet government, I would charge, wants them to believe. I just read an article from Michael Tracy, I think he's in Poland at the moment, talking to refugees coming from Ukraine to Poland, calling for a no-fly zone and peace. How you can call for no-fly zone and peace at the same time is beyond me. But they're saying no-fly zone. And you can see how, even in just the imagery that Zelensky's puppet has been doing in the stuff to Congress, the last frame of that video was calling for a no-fly zone over Ukraine. So you can see how people's minds have been manipulated on the ground, because now they're going to the border and saying we need a no-fly zone, almost willing World War III to happen, because that's what would happen if NATO starts shooting down Russian planes, which is what a no-fly zone would mean. But they've been propagandized into doing it, and this guy who was in prison for 14 months for absurd reasons, I think, is about to explain a little bit of how that happens. I hope this goes over correctly.
Нарушен, то сложно говорить, какие бы про него были бы санкции. СБУ и президент, своим указом президент Порошенко внес просто. Поэтому, конечно, в идеале я бы хотел, но я очень много времени посвятил этому проекту. Но я пока не вижу ни времени, ни возможности, даже если меня и оправдают.
Do you feel that Western human rights groups, specifically groups that are meant to protect the rights of journalists, have done enough, not just for you, but other political prisoners, other journalists or editors?
So it's not just, our Western human rights organizations are complicit in this. You're about to see.
Вы знаете, мне тяжело об этом
It's harder for me to judge this, he says, because in prison I did not see a picture of the efforts that were made.
Я могу сказать, что я слышал голос, например, Европейского и Международного профсоюза журналистов. Но я не слышал, что «Репортеры без границ». При этом я прекрасно осознаю, что мое дело было очень резонансным. В то время как о делах моих коллег говорили гораздо меньше. Поэтому насколько мировые профессиональные организации, правозащитные профессиональные организации, вот типа «Репортеров без границ» и Amnesty International, насколько они были погружены, я боюсь, что не глубоко.
At some point I got the impression that they are not interested in the problems with freedom of speech in Ukraine.
So how can people outside of Ukraine follow up on these cases of your imprisoned colleagues, and how could they support or advocate for them?
Резонанс. И в этом смысле я
благодарен моим
европейским мировым коллегам, которые подписывали письма в мою защиту. Я вам благодарен. Потому что без резонанса, без привлечения внимания к этому, вообще никто не узнает о том, что такие серьезные проблемы с свободой слова в Украине.
Well, that's the reason why I'm doing this video. That's really the reason. I watched it earlier because I was interested. But I think it's clear there's a picture starting to emerge here. He says only external pressure, at least like there was under Poroshenko, could somehow change the situation.
Только давление извне способно как-то изменить. На мой взгляд, по крайней мере, так было при Порошенко, что только давление извне могло как-то изменить ситуацию. Поскольку в самом обществе сформирована такая атмосфера, что если человека обвиняют, журналиста, или вешают в ярлык, что он поддерживает тех, кого считают преступниками, например, ДНЛ, то они уже сами автоматически становятся террористами. Сформировано такое общественное мнение. Поэтому так легко журналисты попадают за решетку. На самом деле, потому что это серьезная государственная машина так работала.
If you're shutting down dissenting voices like that, it becomes easier almost to do it. Because the dissenting voices aren't there to run against it.
Do you have any optimism that it might change?
That's sad. That's sad. For those of you watching at the moment on TikTok, Eva's just asked this journalist who was imprisoned in Ukraine if he's got any confidence that freedom of speech laws change. And he starts laughing. How ridiculous the question is.
Не особенно.
Not particularly.
Do you have any plans in the future to maybe write a book or something about your experiences or this issue in general? The issue of journalists being persecuted.
Мне кажется, что это очевидно. Это слишком
He says it's too serious and expensive for journalists such a view a life from prison not to talk about it. He's going to write a book, hopefully, he's saying.
And
it is clear that all of this does not fit into one short article. So I hope he does write a book about his experiences and about what's happened there.
I just thought of one final question. So my government supports the government of Ukraine.
So Eva Bartlett there is saying that her government supports the government of Ukraine. She's talking about Canada. Is anybody in the chat? Canada? Hi. Going on? How are you? Hey. Yeah, the Canadian government supports this, I suppose.
And likes to talk about freedom and democracy.
Sorry, tell me please, what's the name of your chief of foreign office?
Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland.
Oh, yes, Chrystia Freeland. Yeah, of course. It's ethnical Ukrainian.
The Foreign Office person is an ethnic Ukrainian. He says, Canada, I'm very skeptical against the statements, as my personal experience doesn't confirm these statements. I understand that in Canada, where traditionally there are a lot of natives of Ukraine, there's a special attitude towards Ukraine and such special Ukraineness. Embroidery, Ukrainian language. And many natives of this Canadian diaspora who got into offices of power. And they imagine some ideal Ukraine that is built by real Ukrainians. In embroidery with a portrait of Bandera who speak only Ukrainian. It's a very blonde-haired, blue-eyed version of events, isn't it, this that he's depicting here? That the real Ukraine is much richer and much more diverse. Real Ukraine with real freedom of speech. It's not at all what many Canadian officials think it is, not how Chrystia Freeland imagines.
Well, Kirill, I wish you a safe and fair trial very soon.
Yeah, he got off. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully he's doing okay now. I wanted to show you that, and I know it was a 20-minute video, and I hope lasted all the way through it, because I think it's clear to see that that's pretty important, isn't it? You don't hear stuff like that. That's great work by Eva Bartlett, an actual real journalist, an actual real journalist. You don't get many of those nowadays, do you? Great work. Thank you, TJ Chesney. Keep it up, he says. Thanks, mate. Cheers. I appreciate that. Hi to everybody on TikTok who's still watching. Insana Payne says they just banned all opposition parties in the last time. Probably. There's a couple of last things I want to talk about. Won't take two more stories to get to. This one. Got a video. I found a cracking video on TikTok, of which I do still have an account. Please go and subscribe to me at Gordon Dimmack. Please subscribe to me on all platforms. My link tree if you're watching on TikTok. Follow me everywhere, and also Telegram t.me/Gordon Dimmack. This is a great video and something very interesting by 100 Days of Marketing. And I became interested of this story because of this person. So I'm just going to play this because I think she nails it.
So TikTok is coming for everyone this year. I remember I had told you guys how TikTok was coming for YouTube, and now obviously with 10-minute videos coming out, we know that now is 100% true. What I didn't expect is for TikTok to come for the music industry. If you haven't heard already, TikTok is launching its own music distribution platform. It is called Sound On. Now this is a potential game changer. As you guys already know, a lot of musicians and content creators on this platform that also do music have been able to grow a fan base, have been able to grow a following, and also have some of their music basically blow up because of TikTok. The real game changer that's a threat to the industry is the fact that TikTok will be giving artists 100% royalty in the first year and 90% thereafter. No one else does that. Absolutely no one else does that. So now TikTok not only be the platform that blows up your music.
I'm sorry, what? 100% for the first year? Royalties? That's going to revolutionise the music industry, isn't it? There's a couple of people I follow on TikTok. I think Casey Lowry is the one guy. Casey Lowry's music, and there's another guy. There was another guy as well who did the terms and conditions for living in the UK. These are the terms and conditions for living in the. I've forgotten his name. And there's a guy called Casey Lowry as well. They'd had 2 TikTok videos that they wrote, and they went viral. The TikTok videos did. They're great songs. The one about his ex-girlfriend when he says "fuck you," it's very funny. But They ended up with putting their songs, I think it went on Spotify, and just, launched their music careers. And now it's getting a case of the people that are going viral on TikTok are obviously the people that we like the most, not who fits the genre of the music industry. And now TikTok are launching a platform. They've already come after YouTube. They go, like she said, their 10-minute videos have come in now as well. This really could be a game changer, couldn't it? I'll play the rest of this out.
That grows your fan base organically, but can now give you 100% royalties in the first year and then 90% thereafter? If there's anyone that you know that is a musician and they're still kind of reluctant to potentially come on TikTok to promote their music or their content, I'm telling you now, tell them to shift that ASAP. Because if this goes the way I think it's going to go, where your viral TikTok sounds, you can now get paid for them through the streaming, and then it counts as streaming on TikTok's distribution site, that could potentially make artists way more money and also put them onto the charts a lot faster. Follow me for more marketing tips and industry insight.
You could literally have your own digital concert, couldn't you? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if that evolves and they manage to do some sort of, virtual reality stuff, TikTok? You could have literally a concert in your living room. You could have them playing a hologram in your living room. You could do it from your living room, and you could literally go straight to people. Hey, do you want to download my music? Great. Let's get 10 million people watching me, and you all pay a fraction of a penny. I get £1 million as a result, and I'm extremely happy because I get all the money and not 10 grand after my management and everybody else who cuts the stuff take the other 990,000. It's a game changer, this is. If you know anybody who is a musician, or I would say an artist of any kind, tell them to get on TikTok. And now with this musician thing, get on Sound On, because honestly, I think this could revolutionise that industry, which has been unfair for far too long. All right, everybody, I think that's it. There's just one last thing, actually. I've just said that's it, and look. She always knows. She always knows when I'm about to leave. She always knows. When I'm about to end the stream. Latest on Julian Assange, his wedding is on March the 23rd. There will be a thing outside Belmarsh Prison between 1 and 4 p.m. Go there. There's probably going to be cake of some kind, and there'll probably be pictures and speeches as well. Don't know whether I'm going to be able to get there, but there's details on the website of where to send gifts, what you should wear, card, flowers, etc. I really don't know how I feel about this. I know this is meant to be a happy day, but I can't help but just feel sad. Trying my best to feel happy for them, but there's no way that the bride should be strip searched before she says her vows, should she? But that's what's going to happen. She's going to be strip searched before she pledges her life to the person she loves. She's going to have fingers in her mouth like that, under her tongue and everything. Free Julian Assange. Sorry, I can't get excited about it. Congratulations. I'm very pleased. It could be better soon. All right, everybody. I'm out. Come on, Els. Come and say goodbye. Come and say goodbye to everybody. Come on. Up. Give a kiss. Give a kiss. Oh, do you got my ball? Come on, give me a ball. Come on in. Come on in. My ball. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for all your support. Please go to the website. Find out ways you can support me. You can £1 a month would be great. Fantastic. I don't get advertising money, YouTube or anything, or anyway. So, support independent media. Free Julian Assange, and I'll be back in the next couple of days with more on the state of the world at the moment. Try and my advice to you all is to try and live life and love your family and don't stay in it as much as I am, because it's not good for your mental health. Yeah, take care, everybody. I'll be back in the next. And thanks for everybody who has sent me a super chat. Hopefully I didn't miss. And again, I haven't sorted out the Rockfin or Rumble thing. All right, take care, everybody. Love you all.